Hello, I'm Richard Topping. I'm the principal of the Vancouver School of Theology. As part of responsible theological education, I've been talking with church leaders during the current COVID-19 pandemic. We want to be accountable to our church partners, listen for what we can learn from the church's experiences just now for the benefit of faithful and relevant theological education. As the church responds to the COVID-19 pandemic, congregations face considerable challenges. Some are turning those challenges into opportunities. I've invited the Reverend Victor Kim to speak with me today about his experience in congregational leadership over these past 4 months. Victor's been the lead minister of Richmond Presbyterian Church since 2016. He came to Richmond from Calgary, where he served for 22 years at Grace Presbyterian Church. Victor's committed to a broad understanding of what it means to be the church, having served in a number of ecumenical and interfaith gatherings. He's currently a member of the Board of Governors at the Vancouver School of Theology, and he's the clerk of the Presbytery of Westminster for the Presbyterian Church. Victor's also an avid golfer. He is distressed by how often it rains in Vancouver. So, friends, I've asked Victor if he would reflect with me today on the impact, negative and positive, of COVID-19 on the churches. Welcome, Victor.
Thanks, Richard, for having me. I'm looking forward to this discussion. And I am still quite distressed about the amount of rain in Vancouver.
So, Victor, what are some of the biggest challenges and opportunities for the churches, as you have observed, that have arisen as a result of COVID-19?
Yeah, Richard, I think one of the things that I've really thought about is that this difference between a sense of tactileness versus a sense of abstractness. And that, our faith is not only a philosophical faith, but the Christian faith has always been embodied, right? So things like incarnation matter, crucifixion matters, and resurrection matters. So our faith has always been best lived out in these incarnational and embodied relationships with one another. And it's hard to do. It's hard to live out those relationships when we're apart from one another. I think the metaphor for the church as a body, right? The body as a metaphor for the church is about something that is organically connected. And I think it gets tempting when we're apart for the eye to say to the mouth or to the ear, I don't need you. For the hand to say to the foot or other parts of the body, I don't need you. I think I'm doing okay. And I think that we do miss the connections, the warmth of the bodies, the relational connections that we were originally created for. I worry about what a return might look like, right? I worry that people who are used to not meeting in person will continue to stay away and opt to connect, virtually. And that raises questions about sort of the depth of commitment in an online age where church used to be one of those things where you actually went, right? And more options were given for us to connect virtually from home. We didn't have to go anywhere to learn these things. We could just watch it online. And church used to be one of those places where you actually went. And the more it becomes a virtual option, I worry about the depth of engagement and the required physical presence that gets lost. And I think once that gets lost, it's always hard to get those things back, right? Those connections back, whether it's about social engagement, missional engagement, financial engagement, or otherwise. I think, though, that some of the positives have been that it has opened us up to a level of connection with people who have been sort of limited in their ability to be connected, whether it's due to things like mobility, health, finances, and the online possibility has made that available to them. And I think we've recognized as churches that that we could actually have more reach than we think we do. That there are almost no bounds to the reach that a church could have, and that certain geographic areas or certain demographic traditions no longer need to sort of put up hard boundaries about who are you ministering to. And maybe in that way that it becomes easier for an online church to reach what I would call a critical mass, after which sort of it just kind of the ball keeps on rolling, and people get attracted to what you're offering because of the reputational knowledge that gets out there.
Yeah.
I think conversely, one of the challenges to that is that big churches that are already big already, who have the resources to be able to put to these online ministries, may end up swallowing more and more of the smaller, less well-resourced churches. And so we move to fewer, bigger, more consolidated churches out there, which then, we lose some of these specialized contextual churches, which may have a uniqueness to them that really helps them to connect with a particular community, a particular neighborhood, a particular ministry. So I think we risk losing some of those contextualized ministries in some of these big churches sort of swarming about. One thing that I've had recent conversations with some of my colleagues about, Richard, is that there's a stress on leaders, clergy. There's a stress on them to perform constantly under pressure, to present things that compete with what else is out there. And even in casual conversation, I've found that people are emotionally affected by just from hearing people speak about how well they're doing, because we feel like, we have to sort of measure up. It almost feels like, we have to always be innovative, always be imaginative, and those aren't bad things, but I think the pressure we put on ourselves can become just exhausting, emotionally draining. And I think that that leads to some health concerns about, about clergy who may not always be, super charismatic, for example, but are faithful.
But not television personalities.
Exactly. They don't, they don't have the hair for it.
Victor, have you noticed, on opportunities and challenges, have you noticed that now it takes more or fewer people to put together a service? I know some of what you're doing at Richmond Presbyterian, and I just think about how the demographic that you get together, the age group that you're getting together to produce a service is a little bit different than maybe it has been in the past.
Yeah, as I think about that, Richard, as you bring that up, I think about the average age group of the people that show up for our taping, and it's very young. It's very young. You kind of have to be very conversant with the technology around this to really feel confident about helping in some of these areas. I think about our music team that shows up. They're very young. I think about our volunteers who are doing some of the recording on video, and they're very young. I'm pretty sure I'm the oldest one there. So
that's a change, isn't it?
That is a change, to be part of a ministry where I'm the oldest one rather than one of the younger ones.
I was thinking about that this morning, how on the one side, the struggle with the technology for people who aren't conversant in the world of technology, there tends to be a demographic there. But on the other side, the people who are conversant, their help has been important for many congregations, I think.
I think it's been an opportunity for people to get engaged with ministry that never really thought that they would be. And I've certainly heard expressions of appreciation from people saying, I've really enjoyed helping. It's actually been something that, because some of these people also have been restricted from doing what they have been doing in their careers and in their vocations. And to be able to find a place where they feel useful, helpful, appreciated, and sort of integral to something that's being produced has been a healthy thing for them as well. So I think it's been a good opportunity.
I was thinking it's helped the church maybe become a little bit more inclusive of at least a certain demographic, which is interesting, right?
And missional as well, I think. This is the good thing about one of the benefits of this time would be this, as we move away from the centrality or the primacy of a building as church, I think this helps with the missional focus of the church that makes this transition of moving beyond our walls just a bit more natural and obvious. And for those congregations that have struggled with being missional, when they say that necessity is the mother of invention, maybe pandemic may be the crisis that pushes or nudges or pushes hard some church communities to adapt to the realities of our digital age, to embrace things like
Yes.
social media,
Yes. Yes.
rather than maybe seeing it as, that's that stuff over there that people do crazy things on. Well,
Yes.
you can actually do some good things on it.
Yeah. I was thinking the other day of the parallels between now and, say, the early chapters of the book of Acts, when the church is to bear witness not only at home, but to radiate outward into the neighborhood and the whole world, and how they were slow to get out of Jerusalem until persecution arises. And persecution's not a good thing, but somehow that got leveraged to make them missional, to disperse them into the wider world, and thought there might be some analogies between the book of Acts and perhaps what we're experiencing just now, if we see it that way. Victor, what do you think might permanently change for the church in the light of COVID-19? What are we learning that may be a really positive lesson for the longer term, even when things are maybe not entirely the way they were before, but more like the way they were before?
I think one of the things we're learning is sort of a holistic approach to the person, rather than sort of a dualistic idea that there is a spiritual, mental or soul part of it and sort of a body part of it. We're recognizing how integrated our whole body, mind, and spirit is to our overall health. And so I think churches will be paying more intentional attention to the health and well-being of people that are attending church physically, to make sure that our spaces and our programs and our practices care about the entire person, body, mind, and spirit, right? So that they don't come to church and get fed up here, maybe have a couple of bites of here and then go, but rather they know that we're offering care and health for the entire person. One of the things that I thought about is, when I was back in Calgary, we invested in the ministry of parish nursing. And it's something that I haven't seen here out in Vancouver in the presbytery that I'm the clerk of. I haven't seen any congregations that I'm aware of that are invested in parish nursing. But there's a ministry there of care for the people. After worship, a screen was set up in the sanctuary where people could come in and just have a chat with a nurse on site. The nurse wouldn't be doing anything that he or she wasn't supposed to be doing. And when there was just some advice given, some encouragement to go see a doctor, things like this. But a lot of it was also reassurance to people that somebody was going to look at them. That somebody might give them a bit of encouragement to say, yeah, you really should go see a doctor, or I think you think you're okay. And that's natural, what you're worrying about. But that ministry of parish nursing, again, that takes in the whole totality of body, mind, and spirit, may be something that more churches might want to think about investing in. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a costly, like a financial investment, because there are people within our congregations who are either nurses or retired nurses who might be willing to say, yeah, you know what, set up a little area after church on Sundays where someone might just want to come and have a chat.
Yeah, nice.
And that gives a bit of assurance to people. I think we're this solidarity that all of us, not only in the church but in our society, have experienced during this time with people who are on the front lines, with in particular underappreciated, underreported people who are doing really difficult tasks. I think of people in the seniors' care homes. I think of people, who are doing work in places like grocery stores. They're just taken for granted, but we recognize, truckers, delivery people, they're just taken for granted. But this has been a season where people have shown solidarity with them. I hope that sort of solidarity, that appreciation for people within our society that have done what we might call mundane tasks would remain even once the pandemic has subsided. I think that's one of the things. I think the other thing that churches will be changed by will be that we're just going to have to be more nimble, adaptive leaders who are able to move on from those structures within the church that are maybe just ballast or bloat. We can learn what's not needed because we're not doing it and nobody's raising a fuss about it, so that we can maybe focus our resources on what is needed. The whole thing where, once a program in a church gets started, you can almost never stop it. But in this case, what COVID has done is it stopped everything.
Yes.
And it's, it's forced to stop to a lot of these things. And maybe we recognize that some of the things upon our restart don't need to come back.
Yes.
Because no one's really missed it.
That's good. So one of the things that's occurred then is that things that were more difficult to question in kind of routine operations now have maybe come to our attention, their value long term. That's great insight. Thank you for that. Victor, you were hedging on this toward the end of your remarks, but as a theological educator, principal of a school, I'm interested in what we do to help prepare our graduates for a world in which there will continue to be, I think, maybe not to this degree, I hope, but there continue to be sort of radical changes that you don't have a hand in. And that mostly what you're doing is trying to respond, adapt, be nimble and flexible, and in order to engage those things. What do you think theological educators could do to maybe inculcate some of those, that responsiveness?
I think there's a couple of things that seem maybe contradictory, but maybe are just both present. And they aren't just contradictory as much as they're both necessary. One would be maybe more focus and equipping on graduates of our theological colleges to understand sort of a bivocational model for ministry, to realize that you need to be entrepreneurial, right? That the old structures no longer exist in the same way. Kind of used to be, right? The implicit agreement, understanding was that you go into theological education, well, the churches will provide a place for you to practice that vocation once you come out. And that's been changing already, but I think this pandemic has really accelerated that change. And so that if we are able to equip our graduates to think about becoming more and more entrepreneurial, and what I mean by that would be thinking about serving not only in congregations, but also in non-church-based organizations, having some leadership skills around those sorts of service organizations, so that you're not only depending on the older structures of a church or a denomination to be there for you, but that you have some gifts to be able to serve in other agencies that are maybe not church-based, but are based on that are rooted in helping ministries of some sort. So there is that sort of let's get people more gifts around their entrepreneurial side. But then there's the other side, which is, for me, there's a training for a deeper attentiveness to pastoral care. Training for a deeper attentiveness to pastoral care. I think that the pandemic has revealed issues of need in people that weren't always obvious before. And issues like isolation and mental health, a lack of strong and significant relationships that lead to withdrawal and depression, etc. And I've certainly been faced with lots of need in our congregation, which I've known it's there, but it doesn't kind of hit you in the face as it does now, when suddenly a lot of these things, a lot of these issues come to the fore. So I feel at times that that I'm woefully under equipped for the intentional pastoral care that the pandemic has revealed. There's a lot of need out there, and I think if we can maybe even increase the capacity for our graduates to do this sort of pastoral care intentionally, I think that would be a very, very good thing.
Have you found there's people in your congregation who have gifts around that area that you're able to engage?
I think that's been, I have to say that we have not done that as intentionally as we should. But one of the great things about, the Presbyterian system, if you will, is that we have these women and men called elders, and each of the elders is assigned a district. Roughly 10 families, let's say. And certainly at Richmond, Presbyterian, each of our elders has really done a very faithful job of connecting with those families in their districts to check up on them, either by phone, by email, even by video, just to say how are you doing, and keeping us connected. And I have to say that with the challenges of being connected in this sort of online platform, this digital way, we've certainly experienced that most of our people are still very, very connected. Yeah. And I think I chalk up a lot of that to the work of our elders who are able to have those pastoral connections. So I give them a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, well, that's great. Great. Well, Victor, thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I'm really grateful for your insights. I learned a lot, and we'll try and transpose those onto the life of a theological school, and maybe include a course or two on church leadership and IT too. Thanks a lot.
Yes. They didn't offer that when I was going through school.
Yes, and it would have meant something different.
Richard, it's been a pleasure to be on this conversation with you, and I thank you for all the work that you and VST continue to do in helping to provide context and resources for all of us.
Thanks so much, Victor. Have a great day.
Thank you.